Hi, folks. Welcome back to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. Every week, I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well-being and fitness through endurance sports. I hope they spark some possibility in you, leave you with some tips, and perhaps inspire you to perspire. This episode is also available on leading podcast platforms if audio is your thing. My guest today is a familiar figure in the Texas ultrarunning scene. You can find him in some of the major races, busy directing and making sure everything is working well. Have you ever wondered what it takes to have a seamless experience in an ultra race in the middle of wilderness? We are all used to great aid stations, those course markings that make sure we don't lose our way. Someone's doing hard work behind the show. We're going to find out. We also explore his running journey, what got him into endurance, and the why and the purpose of what he does. Let's welcome Chris McWatters of Tejas Trails. Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it. Hit like if you like this video, and remember to leave your comments. Let us know if you took something away. Hey Chris, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Hey, thanks so much. So glad to be here.
Oh, it's an honor. It's a pleasure. You are a well-known person if you're a trail runner in Texas, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. We want to talk about your whole journey into Tejas trail running, what you do there, and your background in running itself. How did you get there? So we're going to dig into all of that. But before that, let me hand it back to you and have you do a quick personal introduction, and then we'll jump in.
Cool. Well, thank you again. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, so it's there's a lot going on right now. So I'm just so excited to be in the middle of everything that I'm passionate about, and that we got to, provide some really cool things throughout this whole last year of chaos. And so, I'm just at a place of a lot of appreciation and just feeling a lot of grace, and just very thankful these days.
Awesome. Yeah, you're pretty well known as the founder and the owner, not the founder, but the owner of Tejas Trails. And so we'll come back to that later. But before that, I want to maybe spend some time on your own personal running journey. Like, where did it all start? And so let's get a little bit of a flashback here, and let's start with ground zero. Where did your running journey start?
Man, well, this will be fun reminiscing. I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. So it's actually kind of funny. I grew up a soccer player, right? Like, I was really passionate about soccer, always had a ball at my foot, never walked I was always dribbling or juggling through the house, broken toes from always, having a ball in the house. So barefoot, going from point A to point B. So basically, turns out I didn't know this in the moment, of course. I was just a kid having fun in life. But a PE teacher placed a bet with another PE teacher, like we were racehorses, that who had the fastest kid in their 6th grade class. So he, as far as my side of it, he invited me, asked me if I wanted to run a track meet. I was like, I didn't know anything about track. It was all foreign. Never gave it a thought. And so I just liked playing team sports and, running around like a normal kid. And so anyway, long story fast forwarded from there, they ended up, I said yes. And I would, told my parents that this was something that my PE teacher brought up, and my parents were really supportive. And so we went in, and I remember all I knew was you were supposed to have spikes, which I didn't know they were called spikes. I just knew cleats. So I was like, hey, I got to get some different cleats, and you're supposed to wear a tank top. That's like all I knew. And so we literally stopped at Walmart en route to this summer track meet. It was a Hershey track meet, and I can still picture it, which is pretty crazy to say. It was just a while ago. But so I actually bought a mesh tank top. It looked like I should have been in a Michael Jackson video probably. But anyway, because it was like 200 degrees. I grew up in Oklahoma City. And so I ended up winning the 400 and the 800, I think it was. And I was just competitive. Like, I hate losing. Like, I'll lose sleep at night if my grandfather beat me at dominoes, petty. But I love competition. I always have. It's just part of me for whatever weird reason. So basically, I just didn't like losing. So I just ran as hard as I could, about died at the finish line. But turns out the kid that I had beat had been one of the best runners in the nation for those distances. And so all of a sudden I'm getting calls from these different clubs. And, so this one club contacted my parents and asked if I would run on this 4x800 meter relay team that they're going to go try to break the US record for. So that was that. I had to make a hard decision. They're like, if you want to be a part of this small crew, then you can't do anything else. No soccer, no playing around, so it's kind of a weird thing for a kid to go through, I guess, in hindsight. But it was exciting and, kind of, just new and shiny, I guess. So fast forward from there. So I went and joined up with these 3 other boys. We all got to be best friends. We trained together. We would go to one other's house, but we were together all the time, traveling and racing. And we ended up going through the stages: district, state, regional, national. And so we won individual events. We won the relay 4x8 and 4x4, set the record for that age group. Fast forward again, a couple years later, because it's 2-year age groups in USA track and field, or it used to be. I don't know if it is anymore, but so 2 years later, we go at it again, do it again. And so this kind of became my family. And I found this really, I think the thing that I found, I'll put it this way, is that I could no longer blame a referee. I couldn't blame a coach if we didn't win, right? Like, it's just raw. Like, you either show up and perform and want it more than the others in lanes 1 through 8, or you don't and you get beat. And so the rawness and there's no ball, there's no, just you and your running shoes and everyone else on the track. And it was beautiful. So I just really, even at a young age, for whatever reason, thank God, kind of grasped that and fell in love with that. And then I went on and started running in, junior high and high school, and ran summer stuff. And so it just kind of really became a part of my DNA. And I just couldn't get enough of it. So kind of moved up to the 1500, 3000. And then I realized that I just felt alive when I was running, and I just couldn't stop. I never wanted to, we'd have a 10-mile long run and I'd always beg to go, 15 or 16 miles. Right. So I was the weird kid. Like, it was punishment for others, in basketball. And I wanted to, like, can I do something wrong to go do another mile? And so it was kind of funny how that all kind of played out in my head, I guess. But that's kind of where I guess I never realized that was happening in the moment, but that was just kind of how it happened. So so then I went on and ran in college, before that, another funny sub story is I begged and pleaded. I wanted to run a marathon so bad. And so when I was 16, I finally wore my dad and my coaches down, my trainer. And it was like, I finally won, and they let me run a marathon. And so they're like, you got to go slow. If you race it, you're going to be in so much trouble, So I was like, I promise. And then at the end, I got really excited because there's all the people, and it was, got in the crowd, and started getting hyped up. And I remember running like 7:15, 7-minute pace the last few miles and got in trouble at the end. Like, we told you not to push. And so, anyways, I still remember
which marathon was this?
It was Oklahoma City.
All right.
Now
and I was reading that you did 3:06. You'd finished that in 3 hours, 6 minutes.
Yeah. So, definitely that it was kind of a funny, I can still picture their faces, like they were so ticked off at me and so proud too, I guess, at the same time. So I think that's a moment where I realized, like, man, I just love pushing, and the longer distances were always attractive, but then there was no opportunity for that really, because I wanted to run in college. And so I went to Oklahoma State University, ran the 3K steeplechase was my focus, which is really ironic because I've never been able to even touch my toes. Worst hurdler in the world. But anyway, so I ran through college and got an injury my senior year, so I didn't get to finish up that part of my career. Kind of ran on the roads a little bit. Started doing some pacing, which was kind of fun. Got paid to pace some of the road races around Oklahoma and South or North Texas area stuff. So that was kind of fun. And then, that was kind of that. And later on, I got into the sport of adventure racing, of
And
all
what
things.
what year was this? And this is probably then after your college.
Yeah. Yeah. So after college, I was living in Oklahoma City, moved back there, and was actually working in the sport of track and field. So we'll get into the career side of it later. But so it's just wrapped all around that world of endurance sports. And it came from, it was a guy that I knew a guy who was quite a bit older than me from the road running scene around Oklahoma, from Tulsa area. And so he contacted me and said, "Hey, I remember you talking about how you love mountain biking, and clearly, you can handle the on foot part, but we run out of ideas, and we're missing one teammate for this 36-hour adventure race in Arkansas. And would you have any interest?" And I was like, "No way," because I had watched with a buddy of mine, Kyle, in high school. He'd call me up, and he got me watching the Eco Challenge, which was the epitome of long distance racing. 10-day cutoff, 8 to 10 day cutoff. Race course is always different anywhere around the world. And so I had this really weird thing in my head where I just knew that I was one day going to do Eco Challenge. That was like the grand pumbaa of all difficult things, and just fascinating to me. I mean, people died during the race. This guy fell off his mountain bike and got impaled by a bamboo shoot and punctured his lung. Like, this is like for real stuff, And so I just thought it was so cool and so scary. And so, but because of watching that on History Channel or Discovery Channel, whatever it was, annually, I kind of knew a little bit about the sport, but I really had no idea what it actually looked like.
So you're the kind of guy who was just getting high on running and racing and all this adventure sport. You didn't get derailed into, like a lot of us, especially in college and stuff. We've been active in high school, but then in college you get derailed into doing other stuff and getting high on other stuff.
Yeah.
but looks like you stayed on course.
Yeah, right. That's a true miracle, right? Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I'm really thankful for that, because I mean, in all seriousness, most of my friends were drunk all the time and, smoking things. And so really growing up in South Oklahoma City, that was a big part of what helped me stay the course. I had this kind of carrot out there, and it kept me motivated and kept me away from doing those things that were readily available to most youth in that area. Unfortunately, a lot of areas. So yeah, but it was, man, I'm really thankful for all that. Right.
Yeah.
It's like those things are a microcosm of life,
Absolutely. And I think something for us to make a mental note, and for viewers who are listening to this, that's a great structure in place, especially during those years, right? For people for anyone who's in that age, or even during transition times, having something like an endurance sports being a central part of your life definitely helps in keeping you centered and excited. You're looking
Right.
forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well put. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that I preach a lot these days, so to speak, is because again, I kind of went through this very regimented. I'm very thankful, but my coaches worked hard to structure these training sessions and plans, and it was all math based and heart rate based, and so a lot of science involved with it. But now I kind of tend to try to talk people into just going like, have you tried running on the road? Have you tried running on a trail? Have you tried running when your feet are wet? Have you tried running up that thing that looks really steep, even though you're from Houston area and, there's nothing hilly to, have you tried rock climbing? Like, because there's so many ways to get trapped in it going, I don't want to, go do the runs. I do that same course all the time and, whatever, my same route, my neighborhood. And obviously that's part of it. Sometimes there's not time to drive somewhere. There's no access point, but I guess my point is like, there's so many ways to have fun with exercise and even stuff in your own home. And man, I used to do the weirdest workouts, like I would put, a bag of, so many weird stories, but I would put a bag of pinto beans in my backpack and run with 20-pound bag of beans, and just weird, whatever. I'd find a river and I would just, knee deep, ankle deep river. And I'd run 6-hour long runs in the river, just to create resistance. And, just because I just see it. And I'm like, well, that's a weird thought. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right. And end up with these great, getting really strong and really fit, but in the moment, having a lot of fun and feeling alive. And I think that's kind of the trick is, I don't know, there's something to definitely do in the regimented, you're hungry for it and you have the access to that science and that math and that knowledge to be able to do things correctly on paper. But I think there's also something just playing in the woods and acting like and feeling like a kid again,
Yeah, yeah. The other day I was speaking to the psychologist, and she made a interesting distinction between motivation and discipline. And she was saying, "Hey, look, no one's ever going to be motivated all the time, and that's when discipline comes in and structure comes in." And I think what I'm hearing and what you're saying is you had a twist of making it fun, and like you said, making it fun and coming alive. So that's a great mantra.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone
That's
put
a
that
good
on a
hack.
shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So college happened and you had this eco challenge on your horizon. And did you actually go and do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually got the privilege of getting to do the quote unquote world's toughest race. There's a lot of races claim that, so I always joke about it, but definitely one of the most difficult things that anyone's created, for sure. So kind of played out. I started when I moved to Texas, which we'll come to this, I think, later. I moved to Camp Eagle, which is a really weird turn of events. But just because now I'm around like lots of people that were into more typical endurance things and things like rock climbing and even people that I met that were passionate spelunkers and, just whatever, just all these different things that I'd always heard of, but being in landlocked Oklahoma and the flatlands, didn't have access to or didn't realize was available. And so anyhow, I ended up kind of doing some mountain bike racing, doing some trail running. But I ended up getting contacted and started doing some out of state races, adventure races. Nothing too consistent, just was kind of having fun with it. But then someone needed a teammate and got told about this young man in Texas that lived in this remote place and, was racing pretty decently. And I'd only gone at this point, I guess, some 48 hour, like maybe a 48 hour race was the longest, a couple of 30 something hour races. But nothing really that warranted her believing that I was capable of 600 plus miles in 10 days. So I committed to this team. And so that's when Eco Challenge had traded ownership and had become Primal Quest. And so the sport of adventure racing, had been kind of up and down a little bit. And so at this point, the race, again, was always in a different location every year. But at this point, it was in the States and it was in South Dakota. So it was one of the most life-altering things. And again, it's something that I'm really passionate about and I love talking with people about, but not just the race day, but what happens with that carrot dangled on the calendar. And for a 5K, 10K, wherever you're at in that journey of physical fitness, you just kind of think of it like, well, if I do these workouts and I train and I prepare mentally, then I'm going to do really well on race day. For this, it was like, if I don't do these workouts and have the mental and physical preparation, I could be a goner. Because you're out there, literally during this race, fast forward, there's like helicopters going overhead, rescuing people, like dropping a basket down and getting guys out of the wilderness.
So what is this race? Give us a sense of what it involves.
Yeah, so adventure racing, short version is, you're going to be on foot, mountain biking, and paddling, right? And then you're going to be orienteering. So you're going to be using map and compass. The courses are not marked. So they give you coordinates, you plot them. Sometimes they give you a pre-plotted map, but for Primal Quest, Eco Challenge, it's when I did it, we had to plot the maps and basically you decide your route choice. And sometimes they kind of make it strict because they need to keep you out of private properties or whatever. But for the most part, most of the miles are just you're just route finding through the wilderness. And then you, in essence, for the longer ones, the multi-day races like Primal Quest, Eco Challenge, Patagonia, some of those races, you'll know what legs are in what order. Other races, you may not know even what the next leg is. So good friends of mine, people I love most than anyone else in this realm is Too Cool Racing, Art and Robin. And they put on like what they call real adventure races where because there's other shorter distance adventure races around, but it's not really orienteering. So they put on proper like, map and compass adventure races. And so, we ended up kind of learning a lot from them, and they helped me understand a lot of the basics. But when I did their races, they would pretty much have it set up where you would show up and you'd have to get, they'd give you the list of coordinates and you would know, okay, this first leg is going to be mountain biking. And so that's how I got into it, was through them, through their events. And that was huge because that helped me kind of get comfortable plotting under pressure, and you see teams coming and going and your brain's like, oh, we got to hurry. But it doesn't matter if you're really fast if you go 2 clicks the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
And so because the checkpoints are, they're small, they're this little cubes hanging in a tree branch. And so basically from there you pretty much know that you're going to be doing those types of things. And then depending on the race, you either know the whole what each leg is along the way, or you just find out the next one revealed to you when you come in and you turn in your passport, as it's called, and they check. You make sure you check the right punches in the right order, and then that's it. And then you kind of go. So, and then the other piece to the puzzle for the long ones, the multi-day races, is you don't know how you don't know when you're going to sleep or not sleep. It's all just decisions made on the fly. So it's typically because we were kind of competitive. We were one of the first non-fully sponsored teams, non-professional teams, which was pretty neat seeing this, gang of the 4 of us, coming together that had never met until race weekend, and just kind of figuring it out together. But basically you would get out there and kind of just say, all right, well, so-and-so just fell asleep on his mountain bike and, crashed and comes out of the culvert with a branch sticking out of his helmet. And it's like, all right, we officially need to bed down. It's getting dangerous. So that's kind of how you're making your decisions as to when and where you sleep, or you'll find yourself staring at the map and going like, I can't figure out which way north is, it's like, this is not good. And everyone's going, north is that way. No, north is that way. And it's like, okay, we need to be done for a little bit. So you pull out your bivvy and take a quick snooze, and maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But, we never really slept more than 2 hours, and that was an accident.
And this is pre-GPS days, I guess.
Well, so it existed, but it's illegal. So they're not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have a spot unit in case you are in an emergency, you hit the rescue button, but otherwise there's no technology allowed. Okay.
So really using your natural ability to navigate is what you're counting, and teamwork, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing I love about trail running and adventure racing, is they're really this very similar, but so different. Because when I'm out on a trail run, especially an ultra, my whole goal is to kind of zone out, and again, I'm not arguing this would be the best thing for everyone, but just where I'm at in life, I oftentimes don't run with a watch on. I don't race with a watch on. I try to not calculate calories. I try to just listen to my body, because if you train and start paying attention, you can tell before it's too late. A lot of times caloric intake, or what type of calories you need, or what type of fluids, or this is working, now my stomach's turning, I need to shift before it happens. So spent a lot of days vomiting in the woods trying to figure it out, but blacking out. So it's not necessarily as easy as saying, okay, I'm just going to do this thing every 30 minutes or every hour or whatever. But so I kind of went that way and really fell in love with that whole concept of trying to understand my body and try to understand how it's capable of way more than I could ever have imagined, and is always the case. We're just, in general, we're able to do so much more than we think we can, no matter how much you believe that. It's like you're in this thing, and then you kind of like, oh wow, I zoomed out to here, and then but that never ends. You can only see inside that box, but there's like always a way to expand that box, and the only way is to do something that's intimidating. Again, whether it's a 10K road race or a mile fun run with your kid, or I don't know, all the way up to ultra distance crazy stuff.
That's amazing. No, one thing I love about what you're saying is just your approach to almost, for a lack of better word, body sensing and self-awareness as a way to determine what to consume. And it seems like you've developed that ability over a period of time, right? Versus looking at a watch or time, using time, which is another way to do it. That's very profound and powerful. It's people spend lifetimes just figuring out self-awareness and things like that. Looks like you've used your running and ultras to coach yourself or train yourself to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not really anything I set out to do, but because I only really knew, I was sort of brainwashed, if you will, to kind of know, like, yeah, we do it, we calculate everything. It's all, like I said earlier, math-based training. That's brilliant. It's super impressive. And there's lots of very intelligent people that have formulated lots of incredible plans that are very valuable for sure. So I'm not downplaying that, but just kind of, yeah, where I was at personally, it was kind of like, man, I'm over kind of the thinking and, it's like, but then that curiosity, because right, like when I was a kid, I was like, the reason I wanted to do the marathon is because it was the longest thing that I really knew existed in running. I didn't understand that 100-mile races were really a thing in mountains and stuff. And so for me, that marathon was like this moment to something I thought about, and it intimidated me. And so I think that's kind of the game in life when you're not a semi-pro or pro runner, if that's not who you're going to be, which is not very many people. And, it's kind of like the whole goal is to suck everything out of life you can, right? And kind of, do well with people when when you're coming across humans, and take care of other people. And then in between, try to keep feeling alive so you don't die bored. And I guess there's kind of this thing of, I guess I'm going in a little circle here, but kind of mentioned this earlier, alluded to this earlier, but this whole idea of just kind of what's it mean to live life. And, and I've just, for me personally, I've just kind of found, that if I keep something on my calendar that's a little bit intimidating, that's kind of a moment that helps me do the training, which is better for my long-term health, but also makes me kind of something to, get excited about. Because even though I have a passion career, which I'm so thankful for, because I know a lot of people don't get that luxury. I don't have to go grind out, in a warehouse or whatever the case may be. So I'm thankful for that. But even in that, there's mundaneness and nose to the grindstone, like tasks that suck doing, and crappy people that you're dealing with, that think the
And
world's
we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. We do want to dwell a little bit about what you do as a race director, but before that, you've also been doing a lot of ultra running, like 100-milers, and other than the adventurous races that you did. Talk a little bit about that. How did you get into 100-milers and those kind of longer distances? And I'm sure the philosophy you used seemed to have evolved from a lot of those races, but give us a sense of that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of did it out of order, which tends to be a theme in my life. So really it was like, I mentioned a while ago, a few longer adventure races, not many, couple, and then some middle distance trail running and, kind of 50K and whatever around that stuff. And then some mountain biking and a couple mountain bike marathons, which aren't 26.2 miles, they're odd distances, but in that sport. So a little bit of long distance cycling. I rode a road bicycle across different states a few times, not races, but just kind of different events, I guess you'd call them, that you sign up on and, sign up for, and they help you with your gear, but you basically just are on a road bicycle day in and day out for several days. So I've done some of that. And then really it came, again, running was my comfort zone. I kind of knew that I could do long stuff with that even before I did, I guess. But that Primal Quest race really, evolved my perspective a ton, screwed up my perspective a lot too, I guess in a good way for the most part. But, it was that was a 600 plus mile race, the routes that we combined. So we were on foot for like 200 and something miles in that 10 days. We only slept 21 hours, if I remember right, total, 20 and a half hours or something like that. So going through that messed me up physically, because all the swelling and just the, ligament and tendon damage that happens, microcosm, micro tears. I mean, just all that stuff kind of kept me off my feet for a while. And then my body started getting a little bit better. And then from there, I got a call from someone that I had met during the race, and she did long distance triathlons, ultra distance triathlons. And so ironically, I'd even seen a documentary that had her highlighted in it. And so all of a sudden, this gal from Michigan, this team from Michigan, we're joined alongside of them just on a fluke deal in the middle of in this pasture area, prairie area. And so I was talking with the different teammates. We were just kind of having fun, getting to know each other, trying to keep our mind off of the mileage that was still ahead. And so we got to be buddies, and our team kind of reunited just at random times. And like, all right, y'all are feeling good, head out. We'll see you when we see you, maybe never. So she actually contacted me and said, "Hey, I got you in." And I was like, "Got me into what?" So she said, "I called the race director, and those triathlons that I do, I didn't tell him that you've never done a triathlon, but I got you you can do the double or the triple, whichever one you want." I was like, "You suck." I was like, "I didn't say I wanted to do that." So, but how could you turn that down, right? So she's like, because she was being funny. She's like a used car salesman. It's like, "All right, so my husband and I will pick you up from the airport, fly into this airport, whatever, landing area. We'll show up. We're in a Suburban, and we'll be waiting for you. We'll pick you up. We'll take you to Virginia, and we'll go to the state park. We'll help you understand how it works, and then we'll get you on your race. We're just going to do the relay so we can be available in between our legs to kind of crew for you." And so, I mean, I was just like, this is crazy, right? So I am no swimmer. And so...
What year was this?
Oh, yeah. So this would be, let me think. So I moved to Texas into Camp Eagle in 2007. So probably around 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And so maybe even 2011. So yeah, somewhere thereabouts. And so I never swam more than maybe 100 meters. And so I was all of a sudden signed up for a 4.8 mile swim and a 224 mile bike ride, and then a double marathon. Wow. And this was coming in like under 2 months, right? So I was like, yeah, anyway, I won't tell you what I was thinking, but this has happened to me so many times where I'm sitting, my brain's saying, don't answer, tell them you'll think about it. And then before I know it, I can hear my words going, "Sure, I'm in." It's like, oh, crap. Like, I was not going to say that. And so now I'm in. So I get a hold of a friend, and she wanted to run more, and she swam. So I was like, "Hey, can you teach me some swim technique? I've sort of just signed up for a almost 5 mile swim." So it's like, "Sure, how far have you gone before? Did you ever swim in high school or anything?" I was like, "No, I'm a skinny white boy. My legs go like that every time I try to do a kick. They're underneath me. It's awful." And so anyway, so I sorted through that with her. She was an amazing friend, helped me understand breaststroke, and I got to where I could swim a little bit more freestyle. But it was so bad, Santosh. Like I literally was swimming slower freestyle than I was breaststroke. And apparently that's not supposed to be how it works in swimming. So it was bad. So I go out there, and I was cramming for the test, right? Like I swam 200 meters. And then I think the next time I went out, I went like 400 meters and then 800. And then I did a mile. And I think I did a mile and a half. And I had intended on doing like 2.5 or 3 miles. But I got so bored, I just couldn't keep going. So it's like, that's good enough. Mile and a half, that's close enough to 5 miles, right? So I ended up going out, and I did the race. And I remember the race director coming over in his little trolling motor boat. And he pulls up and kind of floats over to me, and he said, "McWatters?" I said, "Yes, sir." I'm like on my back, He said, "How you doing?" It's like, I mean, I'm feeling fine. I just literally don't know how to go faster than this. Meanwhile, this Lithuanian guy is like lapping me. It's just 600 meters back and forth. So he's lapping me every lap, just humiliating. So I was like, I'm on pace to beat the cutoff. I'm fine. So don't worry about me. It's like, okay, just wanted to make sure. Obviously, I think he was like preferring that I quit. He's afraid I was going to die and he was going to have to worry about that with his insurance. So anyhow, so I finally got through the swim and got onto my road bike. And I mean, my road bicycle was like $10,000 less expensive than every other person's road bike in the race. I was not in my element. And so about 36 miles in or something like that, I finally caught up to second to last place and started fishing my way back through people. Kind of work. There's only like 90 something people that started, or 80 or something, not, from all over the world, right? Tons of countries represented, but hardly anybody total, numbers wise. So I finally kind of worked my way back up to the halfway point of the pack and just could not wait to get on the run. And, cause I was like, cause it's all USAT rules, so you can't, there's no drafting. You have to pass quickly. You can't be on someone's tire. So therefore you can't talk to anyone. Right. And so 224-mile bike ride and you are by yourself, no headphones, no music allowed. So just 224 miles of total brain. I remember literally trying to think of people to pray for. Like I prayed for everyone I could think of, I remember at some point also kind of trying to just do long division math, just trying to think of math problems to keep my mind occupied, tracing cracks in the road with my tire, It's awful. So survived it, got through the run. And, I can't remember what I placed, but I was like top 15 just because so many people quit, So then I got a little long-winded on that story, but from trail running from running to a little bit of this and that to adventure racing to a very long adventure race to long triathlon. My second triathlon ever. My first one was an off-road triathlon. My second triathlon was a double iron. And then basically from there got into meeting Tejas Trails, Joe and Joyce, and kind of segue into that. I'll let you segue us in a minute, but that's kind of when I really started meeting more of the Texas trail running scene people, and they were awesome, took me in, and so got to be friends with some people and started showing up to more races and started doing more trail runs, and then did Bandera and Rocky, and then started kind of going out of state, and then really honestly from there over the past years been very blessed. Got a little 6-year-old, almost 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So since kiddos and business and all these things combining to a bunch of excuses, I haven't raced very much the past few years, but like I said, still kind of try to keep 1 or 2 runs on the calendar that are intimidating and beautiful, and scenic. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Makes sense. Well, you're busy getting everyone else run, so
Yeah.
you're the guy. Hey, run,
Right.
and I think I love your whole approach to picking something intimidating every year. Like 1 or 2 things. I like the word that you embrace the word intimidating, because there's a negative connotation most of the time to that word, right? Intimidating, well, let me do something comfortable. So it's almost like when you embrace a word like intimidating, you're automatically putting yourself out into an uncomfortable zone. And therefore, you're learning new things, the new experiences. So I just love that approach. And I'm making a mental note. That's something that I love. That's a great tip that I'm taking away from your conversation.
Cool.
So yes, coming back to, I know you kind of were beginning to talk about passion and your profession, and so let's get into that, right? So how did Tejas Trails happen, and how did you end up being in this profession? And what were you? I mean, like, was it a natural, organic growth into this profession, or was it like, hey, I was doing something altogether different and I kind of pivoted into this? So give us a sense of that.
Yeah, that's cool. Man, I love talking about this because it was sort of organic and nothing planned, which is a pretty cool, again, kind of, I guess, without ever thinking of it this way, sort of a life philosophy. Like you don't know what you don't know, So, I did start off with a weird career. Like I mentioned, I worked in the sport of track and field, worked with my dad. which was super fun. My dad basically started organizing championship level youth track meets simply because they were being run so poorly when we got into the sport. And he was kind of like, he was always an entrepreneur, always had lots of things going on. And, but he was kind of, hey, let's put on track meets. Let's try that out. So I became an official, traveled around a little bit of the Southwest, Midwest, officiating, umpiring in the oval and the track, and also field events, jumps and throws, and all that good stuff. So then I ended up being a race director for USATF youth meets. So that was my intro into event production, but it was through track and field, which is I don't know how to say it. It's a whole nother animal. All the different events going on simultaneously. Very much not the laid back trail running scene as far as the human beings that you're dealing with. Tenths of seconds are life and death for people. So there was just a lot of similarities to what I'm into now, but also it really is a very different animal. But it was a great starting point because just like the double iron being my first road triathlon, it kind of messed my perspective up in a good way, in a way that I'm thankful for. And so from there, long story way short, ended up moving to Texas because I got asked to work at a youth summer camp. I had no idea people did that for a living. I happened into working at one during college because I got an injury during the summer that kept me from training for nationals, like always, like every summer. And so ended up just for a part of a summer, worked in Texas at this amazing sports camp, and so it was just a awesome part of my life, but one that I never thought was going to go anywhere necessarily. That was like a little cool checkpoint, and awesome, thanks, see you never. So, but this friend of mine that I got to know, someone who had very much looked out for me during that time, and someone I respected a lot, basically called and said, hey, a couple of us are leaving full-time positions and your name came up. And so I was like, man, I'm super honored, but not anything I'd ever thought of or knew to be an option. So we don't have time to get into all the things going on through my brain at that point, but basically ended up just kind of like, I couldn't shake the thought of this thing. So I was like, I just have to go. I got to do it. I kept trying. It was like illogical. I was figuring a lot of stuff with what I was doing, and my dad had some really grandiose plans that were exciting to be a part of. But I just could not stop thinking about this path that went this way, and when everything I'd been doing was going there. And so I went there, thought, I was losing my brain. My dad about disowned me, He's like, what? I was like, I know, it's so stupid, but I've just got to go. So anyway, I ended up going, and I moved to Marble Falls, Texas, and it's just gorgeous, right? And hills, and I remember feeling like claustrophobic, and I couldn't figure out what, I didn't know it was that feeling. I was like, I just felt odd. Finally realized it's because I was like not in the plains, and I couldn't see storms coming in the distance, just kind of funny, just whole different world, right? It's not that far away. So, but it was awesome. So anyway, things at that camp got goofy. I didn't realize I was getting in the middle of some drama. The owners had got a divorce, and it was just like some stuff going on. I was like, just trying to figure out what all this is about anyway. So basically got a hold of some people that accidentally, I didn't mean to, but had just come across Camp Eagle because they hosted lots of different endurance sports. So they had cyclocross state championship. They had a huge mountain bike festival, one of the biggest mountain bike festivals in the country. Mountain bike marathon, climbing competition, dual cross, all these different things that I had always heard of and thought were cool. And I thought cyclocross might be a sport that I wanted to get into. So this is another interesting, odd, you're shouldering your bike and running over barriers and hopping back on your bike and pedaling through stuff. So just interesting and weird, and just thought it was neat. So went out there and volunteered, said, hey, I'll give you all a hand if you don't mind, 'cause I don't want to race. I don't know how it works exactly. So I just like to come get in the middle of it. And so the staff out there just became friends like that, took me in, and just thought they were all so cool. I kind of had them on a pedestal. They didn't know that, right? But I probably never told them that, get them too cocky. But I was like, these guys are just so, like, this place is way out there. So I was like, these are real outdoorsmen and women, like they had all the luxury. It's a normal life in most regards, first world for sure. But just an hour and 10 minutes drive to Kerrville, right? 2 hours drive to San Antonio down an 8-mile dirt road. I was like, these guys are nuts, and I love it. So anyway, so they set me up. I ended up, they asked me to run an adventure race, and turns out this guy that I was racing with when we agreed to do it kept asking me all these personal questions while we're racing, right? And we're trying to win, like we're going for, we're not just dinking around. And I was like, what is with this guy? Like, this is getting awkward. Like, stop asking me this stuff. Just show me which way. So, get your map out and shut up. And so anyhow, so it turns out they were interviewing me, like a soft interview, right? To try to see if I was worthy of a real interview. Because they were a very small staff, 9 or 10 of them. They all worked and lived together, and they're just fighting to keep this place that they were passionate about growing and evolving, and huge property, tons of land debt. And they were just always scrambling, and so they were in a place to be able to bring on one more person. And so there again, I was just crazy honored that they considered me and thought about me, and realized I was dumb enough to potentially do it. So there again, another leap. I was just like, man, this sounds so fascinating and stuff. It was kind of in my element to some degree, things that I was comfortable as far as a job task. But still, a lot of it I hadn't done entirely or in that manner. But my background was advertising and marketing. That's what my degrees were in college. And so they needed someone to help grow the camps and go out and rattle the bushes and shake the trees and get more campers, heads in the beds. And so that was kind of my role. So I took that job and that life. It was way more than a job for sure. And then just loved it. I wasn't married with a family, and so it was just an awesome place to be. And then just couldn't find better training grounds. So that's where all that stuff with getting into the longer races kind of came to fruition. And so when I took the job, they asked me to basically take over the group camp, because the group camp director was the one that was leaving. They were launching a camp for individuals, so just where traditional summer camp model where parents drop the kids off and pick them up on closing day. So they wanted me to help create that and get that going, get it off the ground. And then they also needed a race director because Xterra Triathlons, off-road triathlons, had contacted them and wanted them to be a host for one of the regional point series, national point series stops, regional races. So none of them had been an outright race director before. They had helped with these other events as the host venue and stuff, course design and whatever, those different pieces of the puzzle, but they hadn't race directed. So I was, it was this really cool thing where I got to get back into race directing, because that's what I missed the most about the various things that I did back in Oklahoma. So I got that gift given back. And so I figured out how to put on an off-road triathlon. And that kind of led to, I asked the executive director, the guy that started the place, and my friend Anthony, and said, hey, would you be cool if we started a trail run? Because we have all these other sports, but we don't have the most simple kind of purest of all the races. And he was like, yeah, you're right. That is kind of silly. It's like, yeah, start it. It's like, crap. That's not what I meant. So I ended up designing a race and threw it out there, launched it. And so I was at that point directing a trail run and an Xterra, and then helping with course management design for the mountain bike race. And kind of, we all built trail and ate and breathed trails. We were always cutting new lines or building. So we had certified builders. I got to learn from some of the best and actually learn the math and the erosion control and all those different pieces of the puzzle that you may not ever, think about if you're hiking on a trail, how much actual science and data go into properly built trails. So just really got into all that and thought it was so cool. And then as the camps grew, all that effort was kind of being honored, and we ended up kind of realizing that it wasn't the smartest thing for us to be race directors. And so, because we need to put our attention on the main things, which were the camps. So that's where I just started asking around. It's like, who would be the ones to take over the Xterra? I immediately knew that answer because of some contacts, and it's in a small world. And then when I started asking around the trail running world, just kept hearing Tejas Trails, Joe enjoys Crusaders, Tejas Trails, Joe enjoys Crusaders. So I was like, well, after I've heard that the sixth or seventh time from different people, I was like, that pretty much seems like how that should go. So I reached out to them, and Joe kind of put me off, which I get now, is you always kind of end up somehow with a full calendar. He's like, yeah, I'll come check it out. Just give me a few months. I was like, yeah, it's great. It's like, I'm not trying to sell it. Just, it's yours if you want it. We just want to see it keep going and thriving, because we've got something really cool going on. And it's a very special, unique place and set of trails that people would enjoy if they knew about it. So that's kind of how that meeting happened.
Makes sense. That is very clear, very vivid. Thanks for sharing that. That whole pivot into Camp Eagle, and your whole entry into adventure race direction and trail race direct. Being a race director for trails, it's all emerging. It's all coming together.
Yeah. It's a very weird path I never thought to look for, but man, it's been a good ride.
So, for viewers, especially, what does a life of a race director look like? What keeps you awake in the night as a race director, right? And so, talk a little bit about that, and before we get into the Tejas Trails itself, right?
Sure.
What you do currently, yeah. Give us a sense. What is this profession all about?
That's a cool way of framing that question. I've never really been asked it in that way before. That's cool. It's funny because there are a lot of things that can keep you up and haunt you. And the whole game really is that I deal with so many things, and that registrants never have any clue. And they think I'm living the good life and not doing stuff between events, right? Like if people think, it's almost like insulting, right? In one regard, when someone's like, man, yeah, dude, you got an awesome gig. It must be super easy. Just go out and throw some course markings up and that be that. And it's like, I used to kind of feel like, punk, no, I work harder than you do. But then I started realizing, like, what a compliment, right? Like, if the things are going that smooth consistently, that on-site people have no idea that I was literally, about to throw up at night because something was going so awry that, I had to deal with. Yeah. So, but I mean, so not to be too dramatic, it's not always like that, but it's definitely, there's a lot of I guess the thing that makes this career different from a lot of careers is that you have to get good at or be you have to kind of enjoy, I guess, even to some degree, people skills, and then also like logistics and data and kind of the both ends of the spectrum, which is a lot of people that I've met kind of tend to be one or the other, like, can't do logistics, but are just incredible with people, or great with pen and paper, Excel spreadsheets, but awkward around people. So obviously that's not the case for everyone, but, you sort of have to put on this, you hear the thing where you put on a different hat. Well, really what I find myself is like, I wake up and start stacking hats on, and like all of a sudden, I'm like 19 hats tall, and it's just noon, So I think that's kind of the easiest explanation without getting into boring details of actually what the day-to-day is. But it's in essence just a lot of logistics. And then all of a sudden you think, especially with where we're at, having 20 events total, is and another part of what's interesting about Tejas Trails and about what we're doing is we don't actually have any staff. So there's pretty much only, 3 or 4, a handful of trail running companies, like people that are really trying to make a go at specifically trail runs around, that are doing this many events or this realm of busyness with it. How many? Because the case used to be where there's really hardly any. There's only, people were doing more like one-off races, 1 or 2, right? Or maybe a series of 3 or something like that, but more family owned and operated. But we're actually family owned and operated with 0 staff. Whereas a lot of the big boys, have kind of a whole crew that are doing things. I've got a few people that are active behind the scenes that are amazing, huge assets and components that I can't fathom doing without. But they all, they have careers and do things, do this stuff on the side. I'll just mention Franz. He's amazing, huge part of Tejas Trails, but Franz has his day job, and then he'll poke away at emails when he can and help me, with logistics and ordering stuff and making sure, calling up the toilets. And so just that perfect example. So no one knows this, but at Hell's Hills, look up, race is starting the next morning. This is 5:30 p.m. or sorry, 4:45 p.m. The owner of the ranch says, I'm out on the backside of the property setting up aid stations. So the ranch owner says, hey, did you get portable toilets? Because we have to have them, right? And it's like, well, of course we got portable toilets, yes. So I didn't have good cell signal. So I got, the leaning tree yoga pose thing and got, got a bar. And it's like, Franz, do you know anything about the toilets? And thank God it sent. And so he says, yeah, they confirmed yesterday that they're coming. So he called them, and those dorks, they're a bigger company nationwide. They had a communication flaw in their system, and his response on the phone after the company had confirmed and invoiced us that they don't service that zip code anymore. So all of a sudden, it's not done something at the end of the world, but it actually is, right? I mean, because we've got 600 racers coming over the weekend. And as far as that part of the puzzle, all of a sudden this thing that was taken care of is no longer taken care of. And people are coming either way. So it's not the case of, I guess I'll put it this way. Deadlines are very real with event production. And that's the exciting part. I love it, but I also hate it because there's no do-over. And if several hundred people show up the next morning and there's nowhere to get those pre-race jitters, number ones and number twos out, it's a disaster. And that's a bad experience. And people are going to remember that. And they're going to go, man, these guys, they didn't have their act together. Or we can go course mark, and we lay out 1,200 different individual course marking items between the confidence markers and the signs and the stakes and caution tape measurements and feet. And we can lay, we'll lay sometimes 4,000 feet of caution tape on a race course. But if one intersection isn't marked, it was all for nothing, Yeah. So there's just things like that. Animals mess with stuff overnight. So you think things are smooth as silk, then all of a sudden, you're just full sprint. So I think that's the stuff that kind of keeps you up at night and kind of makes you think like, God, what am I doing? There's so many less stressful ways to make a living. But oh my gosh, then as soon as it just wipes away, I feel like it's sort of like probably to some degree like childbirth, where moms that have multiple kids, they're just like, you hear that so many times, just like, oh, it's so terrible, but so beautiful. And then they want to have another kid later after it was so awful, So I get to the event and I'm tired and I'm wore out and I miss my family. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just all of a sudden can't wait for the next one. So
yeah. No, loud and clear. And for someone like you who's embraced being intimidated, right? The word intimidating is embraced central part of your life. I don't think you are out of place doing this. And well, thanks for sharing that, because I've always wondered that something like a race event is so high touch, right? And there are like you said, about 600, 700 people, and each person is a high touch experience. And one person not having a good experience shows up on social media, and people are saying things, and especially now, right? Trolling is just a thing, and so it must be quite a it's like almost an orchestra that you're like an orchestra master, right? It's like all the parts have to work together, and people who are coming in there are worked hard for it, and anything going off a little bit can be very upsetting. So I'm sure what's going behind the scene is what making us have those great moments, and we walk away with pictures and yay and stuff. But so thank you for doing such a wonderful job. I personally have run your races, and I've always come out feeling very good and served, and the aid stations are so well maintained, the people are so friendly. So hey, thank you for that, and appreciate all the hard work you guys do.
Man, well, I don't have words. It means so much when you say it. Yeah, we joke about that too. It's like, I wish sometimes I could not care about people. This would all be so much easier if I could stop caring about people. But yeah, I really do take that stuff to heart and take it incredibly serious. And because I've done the work for a race, again, whether it's someone trying to do their first 5K or 10K, all the way up to doing their first marathon or ultra 50, 100. And just the fact that, that one of those pieces of the puzzle doesn't happen right for that person that put all that work in, and all the people that spent so much time and money and resources. And Like, so we take it very seriously, and it's just the most fun puzzle, multi-dimensional puzzle to try to put together and then keep together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you make people's dreams come true, and it must be definitely very satisfying. I know you probably go through those moments of lows in terms of, oh my God, why am I doing this? But like you said, at the end of the day, when you have those people finishing that thing that for somebody it could be just their first 50K or their first marathon, and you made a life altering experience for them, so it's quite satisfying. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. So where are you headed next with this Tejas Trails? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun to think about and talk about, because this is my end game. Like, I don't want to do anything different ever, and so I'm just so humbled and honored to get to be in the thick of this thing. And I would say, like, my wife and I and the others that are involved, we're more motivated than ever right now, because a lot of what I've sensed this past year, with all the craziness going on, year plus now, I guess, is that there's more and more of a need for us to provide these opportunities for people. And I don't want to be too dramatic or whatever, but just kind of, what may have been just like, hey, this is just a fun thing we're offering. We've always been a part of it, because we know it's life-changing for people. The stories, the different nonprofits we've been a part of, that have, and the ones that have been a part of our events or chosen one of our races as a target for their group of people, because they're, dealing with PTSD, trying to get people back into society, or dealing with obesity or drug, alcohol abuse, whatever. So that's always been a part of it, and a driving factor. But now more than ever, we've realized that, when things were looking bad for us as a company a year ago because of the pandemic, I mean, we literally were like, we might be going bankrupt. Like, unbelievable. This is crazy. We were growth year. And then all of a sudden, it's like, nobody can get together in larger than 10 at a time outside. We very well might be done. I mean, you could see, like, that was how much money was in the account. And if nothing else is lifting it up, it's only going to go down. It's pretty simple math. And you can literally see how many months we had to keep paying the bills and stuff. So in all that, we were kind of up at night. I was sick to my stomach, I was like, just couldn't. But then it was like this thing of, we have to figure this out. We have to, because then if nobody has if none of the major road races are going to be able to happen, none of the big obstacle course races. We also own a triathlon series, road triathlon series over in the Houston area. Those weren't going to happen for sure, because they're all in the middle of Harris County, and right, like, just bigger events, and they don't turn a profit unless you have 700-800 people show up. So they're harder to do than a trail run where you can survive off of a couple hundred runners, right? So, but anyway, my point is that in that time frame, we got very much more motivated, because we were realizing that the only chance that anyone has of putting an event on is going to be off-road out in the wilderness. And not that, we're still having to get county permits and all that. So it's not like you're just hiding. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, but in the sense of, we can keep people spread out. We're not in a major city for most of these events. And the whole idea of a trail run is in a sense, COVID-19 friendly, you know what I mean? Like, safe. And so we just sort of started, when we got the events turned back on, got them green lighted, kind of cracked the code, so to speak, figured out how to kind of do it. All of a sudden, I mean, it was just like story after story of someone saying, dude, I was dealing with some major depression. I mean, I was whatever, because a lot of people live, in small spaces, and they couldn't go anywhere and do anything, and walls were getting closer, and so to speak. And so we just really have found this motivation to pursue not just the same excellence we have been, but also to really make people feel welcome and safe. And because a lot of people are like, I would love to try it, but I've never been out of the city limits. I don't know how to run a trail and how to be out in the outdoors. And they're not, so I'll say it this way: their willingness to be intimidated and to be out of their comfort zone doesn't look like ours. It looks like, literally driving out of the city lights and where you can see stars, right? That's, some people as adults come out and they've said, this is the first time I've seen a starry night. This is, they're just like staring, like, are you okay? Like, no, I'm just looking at the stars. So that really hit me hard. And now we're, like I said, just very motivated and very excited. So I think, to get back to directly answering what's next, is right now, honestly, I'm just really flipping tired. It's been every single event. Brad and Nyla Quinn, who operate the Captain Carl's races and the Hill Country Trivium and Spider Mountain under the Tejas Trails banner. And Chrissy, my wife, and I, Kyle and Jan, who are with Event Data Solutions, that have helped us sculpt all this. We're just really, like, every single race we've had to completely rewrite. So it dawned on me at Hell's Hills, this last one, where you were at, so that event was year 20 on the dot. We're celebrating Tejas Trails' 20th anniversary this month. We're kind of celebrating the whole month. So technically Hell's Hills, it wasn't called that the first year, but that was the first official race that Joe and Joyce put on as Tejas Trails. And so getting to that moment, after a year of having to literally change the race course, the aid stations section, where those are, how we're doing the aid stations. Because, for example, we can no longer have people get their own ice with, so we can't leave an ice chest out. We can't leave the dispenser jugs because everyone can't push the dispenser nozzle. It's all these very simple, like I said, none of this stuff that I do is rocket science, but all these logistics that were dialed in per event. And we launch these certain distances at certain times because we know mathematically I can put one volunteer at that intersection, open the intersection, and then close it so no one gets lost and the course looks the same for everyone else after that. Like, all these things that you may not realize were done, like certain distances chosen because of these different hinge pins around the course. None of that stuff works. So with this new start system that we're doing, the whole race hub, none of that works because of the way the start mats, timing systems all interact with each other. So we're having to redo every component of it. And then all these amazing people that have become friends and like family, that so selflessly give up their same weekend every year to make that certain aid station happen at that certain race. I got spoiled because they know their part and they've done it with excellence every year. Well, now they don't know it's not that way anymore. So it's new time frames I need them for, or I need them on Friday, or I need someone on Friday and Saturday and Sunday morning now. So just all, I could go on, but you get it. Like, all those little plates that have been kind of spinning on their own are no longer spinning on their own. So every single part that needs a touch, or lots of touches. And so it's just been kind of a lot of just reinventing the wheel that we had already kind of had dialed in. And so, because we inherited a lot of this stuff from Joe and Joyce and didn't make any grandiose changes, just tweaks as trails got changed, something closed off and redo some math here and there or whatever. But then the races that we've launched from scratch, we haven't launched a brand new one in a couple of years. So that, even the new races, we're pretty dialed in. So now that all that's done, so Hell's Hills and then Pandora's Box of Rocks, the one that's hitting next, that'll be the last one that didn't get manipulated yet. So crazy to say, but now we've gone through every event in this new manner. Here in a couple of weeks, we'll be through that. And so therefore, we're done with that phase of evolving from the pandemic and figuring out how to do it. So now we've kind of got the old way and we've got this newer way and we've got variations of the newer way. So I think it's kind of safe to say at this point, we can't reinvent the wheel again. What we've figured out is either going to work or it's not moving forward, which is scary, but also exciting to say. So, so now the races that exist, we just have some big decisions to make before a big June reg opener, as to exactly how we're going to lay out, which style of race we're going to host moving forward as things continue to loosen up and more vaccines and stuff. So, because we've kind of stumbled into some things that we honestly really love and we're getting great feedback on. And so I think we might end up kind of doing a hybrid of the new way and the old ways forever, which is a cool thing, I never would have found otherwise. So so basically figuring things out and kind of wrapping that up, putting a bow on it. And then we had I was working on two new races before the pandemic hit, and both out of state, one out of country. So we were looking at expanding into these couple of opportunities that are very, very exciting. And so we had one follow-up trip planned in May that for the one race, and it got canned because of the pandemic. So now I'm basically trying to I don't know if I'll have it in me to go back into that effort this summer. I'm kind of need to just breathe and be there for my girls, and give my wife some time, and just like not drive on all, because it's just been a lot of 100+ hour work weeks for months and months and months. So I'd like to say that I'm going to get back and get that second trip in to finalize and see if those things are really possibilities or not, because they really came together nicely on trip one for each of them. So that kind of is potentially on the horizon this summer, but if not, then I feel like I'll start putting that effort back into those later on. And then, honestly, we don't necessarily we're not the type of people that are like, we're going to take over the world of trail running. It's like, we know the types of trails that we love to be on. So I can get fired up about those. I'm probably never going to get excited about putting on a race on a, crushed granite town path and call it a trail run. So we're kind of picky about if we add any other events, not that they have to be super gnarly and like Bandera or something, but we've got fillers out. People are always kind of hollering and saying, hey, when you look at our place, our private ranch or this park or whatever. So there's always kind of the fun thought of, throwing a new one in the mix, but we're not necessarily looking at just expand. It's like, I want to do well with what we have, but we very well could throw a new race in at any time, but I'm not being a marketing guy. It's truly, I don't know. We might or we might not, but there's lots of fun things to play with, but it's kind of like, what's the best use of time?
Yeah, sure. Now, hey, that makes a lot of sense. And adaptability and innovation is the name of the game since 2020. For definitely, we didn't know. A lot of us didn't know what it meant to be adapting. If you're a race director, and that's so fascinating and commendable. So thanks a lot for what you guys have done. All the safety protocols that you guys put together in the races that I ran, the Rocky Raccoon and then the Hells, were perfect, fantastic. And hey, thanks for that. Thanks for that innovation and adaptability in what you guys are doing. So it definitely makes our life better.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, that was a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about, of course, your journey, and embrace intimidating. That's what I'm taking back.
Cool.
Embrace intimidating. It's going on the wall.
I love it.
That's so powerful. And so much goes into being a race director and running a business that brings so much joy to people. So I learned a lot about that. I hope the viewers are taking back a bit of a appreciation of what goes behind. Hey, we're going into the last section of our conversation, which is I have a bunch of rapid fire Q&As for fun. And so are you ready for that?
Well, now you're intimidating me.
You are not going to be intimidated, because that's your core tenet in life.
Oh, sounds good.
Right.
Fire away.
Okay. First question: the worst race that you ever directed?
Oh my gosh, these are going to be so hard. Oh, the worst one. I mean, I have to pick one of the cold ones. Not that it necessarily went poorly, but I'm a sissy. Look at me. I'm scrawny. Like, I'm a sissy in the cold. So I think to Bandera, it was 9 degrees at the start line. Wow. Like, my feet just standing on the ground, everyone was talking about it. Just like your feet, your spine, I would have rather been racing that one instead of operating it. So that was just misery. And that race is, day and a half into the second day. So it's just a long through the night, just single digits at night. And just, I moved south on purpose. I don't do well with the cold. Our frozen water bottle, all the 900 gallons of water or 1,100 gallons of water, all frozen, just panic mode all around.
All right. Okay. This is so if a movie were made of you, all right, I've got 3 questions. 1, what genre would it be?
Oh man.
B, who gets to play you? Okay.
Oh man.
And 3, who gets to direct the movie?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm not going to be good with this one. I'm the worst. I always get made fun of by my friends because I never know actors' names. So, all right. So just for fun, I'll say Steven Seagal can play me because, right, like who wouldn't want, this goes without. That's duh. Guy's incredible. So genre, oh man. I would have to say, I'm going to sound arrogant whatever answer I say. Like this is a setup. All right, I'll say epic adventure, right? I'm picturing the wilderness, Steven Seagal just kicking ass, and who knows why even. I don't even know what the script is, but yeah, I'll leave with that. And I don't know any directors' names, so I want you to be the director. You'd be who I choose.
Let's pick Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know if I can handle the blood and guts and stuff, but something my kids can watch.
Right. Or Christopher Nolan. He's my favorite. One of my favorite directors.
All right, we'll roll with that.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite junk food?
Oh, so many. Peanut M&Ms. That's it. All day, every day.
Okay. All right.
And ice cream. I eat a lot of ice cream.
Okay. Nice. And the last one, the best advice you ever got in your running journey?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Okay, I'm going to butcher. I won't try to do the quote, but the premise, the point is to not pay attention at the miles of the race. One step at a time, from here to that aid station, from here to that tree, from here to that sunset, from here to that sunrise. That's changed everything. Because then you're not just focusing on, because you do all that work, right? And then you just like, all of a sudden you're thinking about the finish, and what a waste of an experience, right? If you don't learn something from, or just enjoy slowing down, like stopping in the middle of a race and watching this, animal do what the animal does, so I think that's by far the best advice I've ever gotten.
All right. You did good on the rapid fire. We got to know
some hard ones.
All right. So, Chris, that was a fantastic conversation. We're kind of coming to the end of our conversation, covered a lot of ground. And I want to wish you and everyone at Tejas Trails all the best. Continue doing what you guys are doing. And we look forward to, continuing to run in these and enjoying it. And hopefully every time we pass by you, remember that there's a lot of hard work that's going behind, and appreciate all the good work you guys are doing. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Hey, thank you too. I really appreciate everything, and super big kudos to what you're doing and giving people some things to think about and encourage and help to find where they're at. It's awesome. Keep rolling with what you're doing too, man.
Thank you, Chris. Have a good one.
You too. Talk to you soon.